sharing on behalf of our experience. And then, I'm just imagining somebody listening to that and being like, yeah, I should do that.
Yeah, yeah. I just hit record, so I just captured it. So it's rolling, and it's just 11, nearly 11:11. Look at that, great timing.
Wow. Yeah, the synchronicity is definitely increasing, hey? I don't know if you're paying
Absolutely.
attention, but wow.
Yeah, yeah, big
And
time,
and
big time.
I'm also like choosing to align myself to it. So I relate a lot over the WhatsApp with other humans, and then it'll be like 2 minutes and 59 seconds, and I'm like, nah, I'll wait till 3:03 before I send, or 3:33 or 5:55 or whatever we can do. I feel to attune our rhythms with these patterns in numbers, although it's very small. I do see the significance of it because they represent a what do they how do you feel about that? I just
Yeah,
really like it, but
yeah. It's always. I mean, I feel it's just such a spark of energy when you're like, oh wow, like I'm doing this awesome thing, and then here are these awesome like reminders that this is what I should be doing right now. Like the clock just ticked over 11:11. It's like, wow, that's awesome. Like seems really cool, and then it just continuously happens like over and over again, and it just feels really good to be reminded through some, not even through other people, but just through the symbols and through the the um, the numbers and the letters in the three-dimensional world. It's like, wow, yeah, this is great. Like, just keep it up, Shay. I always see it as a sign of like, yeah, just we pat on the back, keep keep doing the work, keep following your truth, and just keep doing what feels right. And it always feels really good, actually. And sometimes I feel like, whoa, that is because it still shocks me at times. Um, when, for example, like I was just chatting to Tom about finishing the documentary, and then it was like the same thing. My message was exactly 1 minute 11 seconds sent at 11:11. And there's like all these things. Last Wednesday we did this big gathering. It was on, and that was intentional to do it on the 11 of the 11. It was an in-person circle, but then just being like out of the blue, it was 11:11 on 11:11, and I still get shocked, like surprised in a sense. So it's still that element of like, oh my god, this is amazing. But then it's like,
yeah,
oh yeah. But also, I played a role in contributing to and creating this opportunity as well, and like being like, yeah, like this is all unfolding in the divine timing and in the divine moments as it should be, and that's just exciting more than anything for me.
yeah, beautiful. I was just quickly having a look at one of the thoughts that came to me sometimes. These like, oh, that's a new thought, and I just thought to share it here because
Sure.
this is what I actively do on a regular basis as a reminder is to renew my mind, but it's written renew your mind, but renew my mind and to give thanks to unknown blessings, anticipate miracles. And when that becomes part of my orientation, and I anticipate synchronicity, I anticipate those. It's not like I'm wanting that to happen, but I'm opening myself up to the unknown blessings that are on their way that I'm already giving thanks to. So I'm putting myself in a space of gratitude ahead of what may be coming. And what that does, it prepares my cells to actually be attuned, to be able to witness it, to be able to see the synchronicities, to see the butterfly coming in the morning into my room. And instead of thinking, oh yeah, you're lost, I'm like, oh, hey, good morning. Nice, some butterfly medicine. Ah, okay, awesome. And in that way, I am able to um, be more in tune with the almost like mystical nature of life that is a bit of a mystery. It's just what you described, when I see an 11:11, I got a message I woke up this morning at 2:22, and I checked a message from a friend that shared something vulnerable with me, and I'm listening to that. I'm just like, wow, I really feel nice about answering that. So I recorded this recording, and because I was so sleepy, I didn't notice. And so when I woke up this morning, I was looking at that, and it's like, wow, I sent her back a message that is 4 minutes and 44 seconds,
Ah,
and you know, it is still how we want to see and interpret that, but it's like a biofeedback mechanism of like, hey, there is alignment, there is not just helter skelter numbers going on, there is actually synchronicity occurring. And yeah, I think that if we as human beings can open ourselves up to anticipate miracles, and we simply are willing to be open for that, whatever really comes on our path, the magic and the mystery can be actually felt and seen. And what it does is exactly what you said. You see that double digits and you go, oh wow, those pulses, those flashes, that is like a rush that runs through our cells, and it brings excitement and joy and and awe. And I feel that those feeling-based states in a human being are able to invocate more of that. It's almost like we're responding in our frequency of awe to what we're witnessing. And basically what we're doing, we're affirming, this feels good, I like this, and in that I'm ready for more of this. And that's where I feel that, yeah, if we anticipate miracles, and through the renewal of our mind, yeah, we can already give thanks for the blessings that we don't know yet, but they're probably on their way. It's like opening the door, the door of our mind, the door of our garden, to have that space in our thinking. Like, yeah, I'm open to life showing up in the mysterious ways. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Anticipating the miracles of life. That's so potent, and yeah, so relevant in today's world as well. Is there sometimes I do feel like, and I'm curious to see what you think about this as well. But one of my good friends gave me this amazing affirmation, which kind of relates to this as well in terms of being open to like receive miracles and receive love and receive support and encouragement. Sometimes I have a small fear about like really opening up to the world, and that through being that vulnerable and through being receptive and willing to receive, that I could be potentially like really squashed and squished, and in the most like vulnerable place be, just really just press into that wound, or whatever it is, that the fear that is there. And one of my good friends, he shared this affirmation for me, which helped me to kind of relieve some of that fear, in a sense, to continue to be willing to stay open and keep my heart open and stay open to receive miracles and anticipate those miracles. And it was, when when I'm open to show and receive love, only love sees in. And it's been a good affirmation for me to realize that the more that I am open and willing to anticipate miracles, or to receive love and be vulnerable and open my heart and really share my truth, that those who are loving, and or the only kind of love will be received on that level. And so
Yeah,
it's been a really nice little tool for me.
it's a very syntropic way of relating to life. And what you share, I can totally relate to, because opening up to love and opening up to life, if there is still trauma within us, and those parts in self are feeling that vulnerability, it's like, wow, if I actually become available to life, then maybe a part is like, well, I know what it felt like to do that when I was really young, because this is all primary imprinting. because we were in that space of the original innocence. We were in that space of the purity. We were high. We were feeling alive and alight. And through the experiences in this matrix of sorts that we were all born into, there have always been experiences for people born in the Western world where that awe and that joy and that inspiration and that connection with life just got shut down. It got suppressed, repressed. We felt rejected, whether it was abandonment or whether we were shamed for just being who we are, just being a human being. And it's not that our parents intentionally did any of this, but they simply didn't know how to really follow the younglings, because it's not been part of our cultural programming. And I relate very much to this sense of opening up to love. And just that thought alone for some humans, and it certainly was for me. Just share a little story of my own, human vulnerable journeys that I've been navigating with the she, and we've been relating so much around human damage and re-enabling our nature and the natural comprehensions, how to become sovereign again, how to make use of the function of our emotional reactions. And it's just so awesome because it's such a natural constellation of just two humans relating. And she performs a beautiful function for me because I hardly get to check in with humans in the physical. And of course, that's part of my choosing, but I'm not really engaged here in Bali with too much activity in terms of socializing. But on the way back, we had an amazing day. Whole bunch of personal dramas. We went to places that I normally wouldn't want to go to, and she certainly didn't want to go to. Hospitals are just not environments where we would normally want to be wandering around just for fun. But it was nice to be there and to experience how, if I'm just in a space of love, because everybody has to wear masks here everywhere, nobody will actually really say anything. So we're wandering through this whole establishment, and everybody's like 4 or 5 layers, mask, everything, and yeah, I'm just free of that. But on the way back, after we finished all of our dealings in that interesting environment, and we related so much more around what's really relevant for humans to really relate around, and that's around our feelings, exploring not so much to make sense out of the world, but to remember how to be in our shine and to feel what all sits in the way of being in that shine. And it's been just so fulfilling. And on the way back, she's sitting on the back of the scooter, and she just placed her hands on my back. And I noticed that I instantly felt a resistance. I felt a hurt. I felt a pain. And the pain was that I was aware what's going on, but the feeling that occurred is that I'm being met with just supernatural love. There's no frequency underneath it. It's just like, I appreciate you, mammal. You've been navigating with me the whole day. And my cells are still calcified for just that natural touch to come there, and just to allow that to feel. And so I started breathing into it, to feel it, to really allow me to feel it, to really feel what's going on in that kidney area. And it was so beautiful because I know how to navigate that, but I because I'm aware of how complex it is to let love in. She's not sending love in. It's me allowing myself to be touched, and that that my cells interpret that level of cell contact as love. And it was hurting. And so I was driving on the bike, and tears started coming out of my eyes because I noticed that my cells have been so deprived of cell contact, and not this, not the sexual form of that, but just real authentic human contact, where it's two friends that are inspired to navigate around each other. and that in that it's not just relating through speaking, but yeah, we can say, hey, I feel you, I see you. It's such a relevant part of our human body, feeling the reassurance of all that we're hearing and all that we're seeing. If that's matched with our touch, that's why you and I, when we see each other, we hug, and then I squeeze, because it's just natural to do that as mammals, to be in that place of like, hey, I not only see you and I hear you, but I'm sensing you, and I want you to sense that I'm a physical presence also. And yeah, it's just to illustrate the realness of how challenging it can be for love to be allowed again, to be re-enabled within, to be, because as I said, it wasn't her like with her Reiki hands trying to put love into my cells. It was just me interpreting the touch and sensing like, oh wow, I I have resistance to this feeling right now. And that's a story of my body, of a part of self in me. And it was so beautiful to just allow that process, to allow the feelings to, because what the thought was that I had is like, all right, you know, yes, you're riding on the bike, so just put your chest forward and just, maybe just have like, it's like having a fantasy of like, yeah, you have a she on the back of your bike so you can be all masculine and feel like, yeah, that's me, yeah, she's touching me. It's like, I don't have that in me anymore. These thoughts can still occur, but for me it's always about, what am I choosing? Am I willing, what am I dreaming into being? Am I furthering stories of false identity, or am I making use of the function of these raw and vulnerable feeling emotions? And so I have committed myself to keep going there, to keep showing up for love, because love wants to come back in. Love wants to be restored. Love wants to flow freely again. And naturally, it would be awesome if I was just on that bike and I would just be like feeling that cell contact and be like, yay. But it was beautiful to sense that I'm not there yet. That my cells were feeling like, wow, okay, wow, this is real. And just then feeling the feelings, it sounds so simple, but I have for so long just denied, suppressed, repressed, avoided, bypassed what's actually occurring in my cells. And that's to sort of dovetail in with this beautiful, I think it's so beautiful what your friends shared, you know that if we open up to love, that only love sees in. Wow. Yeah. And that's like, I see that's what happened in my cells. Love was seeing in. I had all sorts of stories of hurt and pain, but what was actually coming through was a restoring of just that's natural, and that I can welcome that my cells that feel uncomfortable around that are learning again and remembering again how to receive that natural connection. And yeah, these are the inspirational thought forms, as your friend shared it, that I feel really, if we share that with other people, these are, I call them syntropic quotes. They're so part of, anybody could just embrace them, even if it's a little bit challenging. Like when they really think it through, they're like, okay, so only love sees in when I open up to love. Because the fear would be, if I open up to love and to life, bang, I'm going to get shut down. I'm going to revisit all of these experiences that still speak of fear. It's a beautiful reassurance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Amazing story, man. Thanks for sharing that. It's so beautiful. And I love like just listening to your stories and that are so relatable because it's real, like it's just so potent. I feel like I've been there too, where I've felt the life and touch and just how powerful it is for humans to just connect on that. Like it's an intimate level. It's not a sexual level, but it's an intimate level of just being there for each other without any expectation or any preconceived idea or trying to get anything out of out of each other except just to be fully present there with one another, and it's super potent.
Mm.
I feel like just from you sharing that, like particularly with everything going on in the broader scheme of the world, and what we're faced with as a civilization, a human family, it's my biggest challenge currently is navigating the macro level problems that we're facing, but always trying to attempt to bring it back to an individual level of what can I do to continue to open up the love again. But it seems
Mm.
that like on a larger scale, um, societal level, there's so much closing off. There's so much like retreating. There's so much where we're being forced to be in separation. We're literally being forced right now to be apart from each other, which is like you just really beautifully spoke to the power of coming together and having connection on a physical level, emotional level, and an intimate level. But how do we, move forward in these times when it's these authority figures and these authoritarian kind of governments or whatever are really imposing that we stay 1.5 meters apart, or we don't touch, or we wear masks? Like, um, it feels that my concern is that it's potentially going to get um, like a stronger force. And so I've been inspired by you just igniting these types of conversations. And particularly because on Zoom we have the accessibility to do it with anyone in the world at any place. But I've engaged them in the local community here, and we're doing more kind of circle gatherings and sharings and in-person um, kind of experiences and sharings. My concern is, if we keep doing this, are we going to get shut down one day, or are we going to be like, like, is this going to become a restricted thing where we can't even just like show up for each other in person? Where I feel like this is really relevant conversation and gathering for the international global community to see where we're all at. But the necessity of doing it in person is really powerful for me. So I guess
Mm.
I'm just feeling a little bit kind of challenged and confused as to kind of how to integrate it more into life without um, really, um, sometimes I feel like this is like what we're doing when we're in person and gathering and meeting is it's like a really rebellion. It's quite funny.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Mm.
but I guess my question moving forward, like that would be nice to get your perspective on, is how do we because where I am in Australia and Farnham, Queensland, we've been in a bit of a bubble. Really, it's kind of like you can all get paid, or you can go back to work, but still follow the regulations and kind of forget about it, don't think about it, stay busy. And meanwhile, halfway across the world, everyone's moving into third or fourth lockdowns, or still heavy mask wearing and whatnot. And even though it's nice to think that we're separate from the world, it's just still very much a part of it. And if things continue to get more forceful and more regulated, and we have to kind of supposedly follow those rules as well. And so I guess what I feel called to um, actively participate in is more community sharings as to what is our boundaries as a community, like what would cross our boundaries and what would we do if our boundaries were crossed.
Mm.
Because it seems that like this edge of our boundaries, which is a blurred line for a lot of people, they haven't really put thought and given themselves the time to think about what they feel would be against their human dignity and human rights. And so like I feel really cool to have that conversation with more people in an open space, not in a
Mm.
way that divides us. Like I'm pro-life and I'm pro-vaccine or whatever it is, like in an open sharing that people can be heard, and that's why I really value these types of conversations. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm interested in your perspective on navigating that.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So many thoughts come to mind. Um, And first off, feeling-based relating, and then sovereignty. And that everything in life is performing a function with purpose, so that as entropy increases, draconian overrule of totally unconstitutional laws and structures that are like that are imposing limitations on our freedoms to gather, our freedoms to, just really it's imposing on the natural order, on how humans are just free men and women on the land. And on the one hand, that looks like a real negative thing, and we don't want it, and we think it's stupid, and yet it is performing a function with purpose because it is here. So first off, it's really about coming into acceptance that this is currently real, which is what syntropic relating really is. It's taking yourself out of judgment and then getting curious. And so the judgment may very well arrive because our emotional reactions will come up. This is unnatural, free human being. But really, so many humans actually don't know their rights. They actually don't know what sovereignty is. They actually don't know what they feel it, but because we have been all kind of brought up in this ecosystem of the Western orientation, we've never really been taught how to question. We've been taught how to answer questions and give the right answer, but we haven't been really necessarily taught how to critically think for ourselves. And what we also haven't been taught to orientate ourselves around is sovereignty, is our freedom, is our free will, and how we humans navigate with each other. It's always been conflict resolution. It's never been feeling-based relating. And that has left a lot of humans really unequipped, so to speak, with language, syntax, ability to have almost like structured forms of relating that would elicit these intrinsic self-knowings, that would give language to these feelings. And what a lot of people do is that they go into emotional reaction against these pretty much Orwellian structures. And I know where you live, because we've been there. And I stayed with you, and I want to come stay again. So in that bubble of the far north, things seem to just be quite easily just navigatable. And yet these limitations that are put on, and the feelings that you have, like, wow, if we keep doing this, are we going to get shut down? Well, to question the function of that, to be like, wow, what is that? Because you could say, I don't like that. And then we may say, well, I'm just going to keep doing it. But it has this harshness to it. It's like as if we need to defend ourselves from a non-visual, a non-visible, non-existent. It's like this fantasy government that isn't nowhere to be found. And sometimes, the people that entertain the fantasy of being the police, they will execute that kind of role, or they will play that role to be an enforcer of these unconstitutional laws. And when we see them, they can trigger a little bit of sense. There's 10 of us here in the grass, we're hanging out, we're having fun, but none of us are wearing a mask. It's like what we're being exposed to. And I recently wrote about this quite extensively, because I just actually went through a very similar process as to what you're questioning. And it took me about 8 hours to process. And through that, I wrote this really beautiful, eloquent articulation, because I want to bring everything back into syntropy. But humanity is currently in the Western world going through a tremendous cult programming exercise for humans to get used and get comfortable with an external authority having authority over our sovereignty and over our freedom for the benefit and for our own safety. It's this fantasy of herd immunity. It's for everyone's. And so because it's for and you don't know who everyone is, and they don't say who everyone is, you better just comply, because if you don't, you step out of line. And what this very quickly all goes into for those willing is that we can question the function of these emotional reactions when we feel into what it means to step out of line, because that's birth trauma. When we feel that we want to continue gathering, but we feel fear that we may get shut down, that's the primary rejection. That is our natural freedoms being suppressed again. And that sense of suppression is recognized in the cells, and there's already an existent fear in that. And so that where it then becomes relevant in group context, if you do gather, to really engage in that feeling-based relating, to really ask others, are you open to receiving? Because I'm having these thoughts and I really don't want to feel like this, but I want to explore them because they're real. And I want to reveal them so that I can free myself of it. And what happens when we engage in that level, because for instance, you are gathering with these people and you share these vulnerabilities of these thoughts and fears because you are the organizer of it. You're maybe bringing it together, or you're doing it with others. But just to be real with our feelings based on that they don't feel nice is really, really beneficial, because it attunes the group frequency to others also being allowed to speak about it and to explore it within themselves. I comprehend that a lot of these emotional reactions perform a function with purpose for these parts of self to be found. And when that becomes part of authentic relating between humans, wow, it can go really fast, because then we can find these parts and we can just breathe through that emotional intensity and bring them home, like really reintegrate that. Because the question is, those belief systems and those fears, those programs, they're really belief systems from a very long time ago. And those were survival mechanisms that we developed to stay safe in the world. And so those frequencies that come up really come up to protect us from that happening again, which already happened. And that's what the memory can be accessed for. And then the question is like, well, but we don't have to keep doing it like this. And then it's about choosing a new pathway, which then forms a new pathway in the neurochemistry, where the old hardwiring would go straight to that source of like, oh, I recognize this, because it happens through neurochemical associative memory, where we witness something. It's an archetypal narrative that our brain sort of renders down into this archetypal story that then through neurochemical associative memory links to an unresolved emotional imprint, and boom, the emotional reaction comes up. And if we're willing and aware that that's how our human biological experience works, we can be with those feelings. And particularly in group context, when we can openly relate around it and be willing to be vulnerable, wow, we have such an opportunity to transform it. Because what does happen, if we harbor these fears, we are magnetizing this external authority at some level showing up. Why? Is because life always fills the gap. And so everything that I speak about is always about syntropic agroforestry and how the syntropic nature of life works. And so life will fill the gap again. And hey, mammal. Oh yeah. This is the gardener. This is Koman.
Nice. Hey, come on.
Hello. Oh, my cousin. Look at that. From the,
Nice. Wow.
oh yeah, we
Love
got
that.
a little tray of little tomatoes.
Amazing. So good.
What a sweetheart. From
That's
the
epic.
garden that I've planted.
Beautiful. Oh, that's just the perfect reminder. Like that's something that I've been focusing on over the last few weeks as well. Is just returning to the practical things that I can be doing in my life that are going to benefit me and benefit my friends and family. And that's just growing my own food, really. So we're really fortunate here. We got great compost, so many people contributing to the soil, and we just built a new little garden bed and just doing our best to keep going as much as we can. And you, more importantly, a big thing for me is using what we grow. Like it's one thing to grow it, but then it's another to actually implement it into the to my dinners or lunches and
Mm-hmm.
making good value of the produce.
Yeah. Yeah. Really putting it into your cells.
Yeah.
You already had the therapy. You had the microbiological therapy with the microbes in the soil that come into your hands, and they, they communicate with the cells on that level, and yet it's much of an act of, I call it therapy, because it's just like I totally zone out when I go into the garden. It's if I just smoked something really beautiful, and I just but yeah, to ingest it, to really complete that cycle of our thoughts about planting, to then going and doing it, to then seeing and navigating with the natural timing of that tomato plant or whatever we grow, to observe it and to be part of that natural growth. Because us humans, we find it only possible really in younglings to see the natural growth of younglings, and it'd be like, wow, you've grown, and there's excitement with that. But after kids are like 16 or 17, like, that's it. You kind of have grown. You may add a little bit, and facial features may change a little bit. But the beautiful thing that I find in life outside of myself, in nature, is that you can see the growth. I watch the coconut trees, and there goes another palm frond that falls off because it has been another moon cycle. Coconut palms, they put out a new palm leaf every moon cycle, and so everything is tied to these beautiful natural rhythms, and I love witnessing that. And the only sadness that I have is like, oh, I didn't pick them myself. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
such a sweetheart. We're doing it together.
Yeah, nice. That's really cool, man. I love it. I love it.
Mm,
Working together. It's beautiful.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I'm feeling really good. Yeah.
Yay.
I love that we're able to activate these conversation. We found a really nice time that works for the Australians in this period. 11 a.m. works
Mm,
pretty well over here, and seems that's a good time in Bali too. And really excited to grow this like this little community and this little network, and see what happens with it, and just keep sharing and relating where we're at and how our weeks have been. And for me, that feels really good, and it's a good little check-in. It's a good little check-in,
mm,
which I appreciate a lot.
yeah. Yeah, same here. And I feel really good about expanding the circle to more people, and how lovely would it be for anybody to be able to show up to this, where there is a little bit of a format where it is about not just randomly sharing, and because it's all about relating around what feels relevant, because the opposite, or the counter to that, is why would you relate around what isn't relevant? And so these become relevant conversations because we filter out by just considering that we filter out, and we all know what is relevant or not relevant.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, in my past lived experience, I used to talk so much irrelevance
Yeah.
because that's just been part of the culture. But um, we are able to set the tone and the pulse for our own human culture. And I really, really like that. And so for me, when we make our relating around what feels relevant to share, then we can also rest assured that whoever is going to be speaking, they're going to be sharing what feels relevant for them. And that's a beautiful space to be in, because then we can also take ourselves out of judgment, because everybody knows that whoever's going to share will be sharing what feels relevant for them, which then creates this space of like, yeah, well, I'm just going to receive it, because how can I judge whether that truly is relevant for the other person to share? And I feel attracted to open these conversations up in the weeks to come, um, and just really open to see how that flows. And it'd be just so lovely to also see more familiar faces,
Yeah.
but to really speak about what we're relating around, like the feelings that come up in the times that we're in, because it is all a tremendous opportunity for growth, and it's a tremendous opportunity for us to find our kin, to connect with our community, to connect with our tribe. and to connect in meaningful ways where we relate around what feels real for us, in my experience, is really fostering relationships without contracts. They're like, they're just because it's natural for humans to connect with each other. And yeah, I feel excited in the fantasies that occur for me, who we could all be inviting to this, because particularly out of my Brave New Life project, and which is, you know, as I said, it's my Brave New Life. I encourage everybody to start a Brave New Life.
Yeah.
Stop relating with people that are not feeling to be making you grow and expand and explore yourself more, because the conversations are actually not relevant. Connect with people that you feel are actually relating around what is intrinsic and relevant to our own experience. And the beautiful thing is, it's a natural filtration system, because the people that don't feel attracted, they don't show up,
Yeah.
because it doesn't feel relevant to them. So we're going to be navigating with people that feel that this is relevant to them, because they comprehend the relevancy. It's just like, wow, this is how life, you know, really just is quite effortless. But yeah, we have about 3,500 people on our mailing list
Yeah.
with Brave New Life, and so many are in Australia, and they cannot come on at, like, what is it, 11:30 your time or something on
Yeah.
a Thursday
Yeah.
at night,
Yeah.
or 12:30.
Yeah. 12:30
It's
on a
late for me
Monday
when I
too.
finish
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Just so this time slot feels really nice. And if you want to contextualize that a bit for the people that may be watching this, yeah, that may be relevant, also to see who you want to invite into that space, because
Yep.
it's really about us sharing this space together and exploring that.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like this, even just this conversation has gone full circle, you know, where we started the conversation about being open to anticipate the miracles and be open to receive the love. And here we are, you know, creating a space where we're opening up the conversation to the community who feel called to relate on this relevant topic. So it's like opening up this conversation to, and only those who feel, you know, this is a relevant conversation to have are going to be called to it. So it just like summarizes the whole conversation.
Only love sees in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. So yeah, I'm really excited for it. I'll definitely be sharing it. I'll post this little video out through Facebook and different channels, and then also send out a little email with people and just let them know that it's on
Yeah.
Mondays and 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we'll just see who feels that was feels to be a part of it.
Yeah. What I may do for that, just to make the communication portal a little bit more swift, and that, you know, there may be 100 people, and how you're going to email 100 people with a little link notification reminder. I may just make a little landing page for people,
Yeah,
and we can include the link here in the video once it goes live, so that it's just for Australia and New Zealand,
yeah.
because what we also don't want to do is, you know, inform people on the other side of
Overcomplicated.
the planet where it's totally out of their time and they get notifications about the Australia
Yeah,
sort of component. But yeah, that feels good. I feel really nice about that.
sweet,
Um,
beautiful.
because then we can send out the reminders, because it's nice for
Yeah,
people to get a little reminder link 2 hours ahead of time, where they're like,
yeah.
you know, opening their email in the morning, they're like, oh,
Oh
nice,
yeah,
in 2 hours.
yeah.
Ah, okay. Um, Penny, I won't be available at 11. Just cancel all my meetings, all right?
Yeah, yeah. So true. So good. Yeah, let's do it. I'm on for it. Easy.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful.
And thanks
So,
for your
so nice.
time again. Yeah, I really appreciate just yarning with you and sharing in this. So I just feel it's going to be this potent conversation to open up to more people. So thank you for initiating.
Yeah, so nice, brother. Really, really awesome to relate with you. Oh, before we go, I just want a quick update on the um, Earth Heroes, the regeneration.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, do you feel to share where you've come from, where you are now, and what you're looking at? Yeah, how is it looking? You and Thomas have been on this amazing journey.
yeah.
It got
Thanks.
somewhat activated because I put the call to adventure to your you know, to your front. And that was awesome because I felt so inspired about your choosing. And it's like when that signal goes out, does the universe respond? And when I got that message from you guys, I was like, yeah, I want to act on this. And wow, it's just so amazing that we chose to do that, because our relation, like my feeling based relationship with you and Thomas is just like, it's just brother love. What did I call it the other day? Bromance. You know, it's
Romance,
just,
yeah. Oh, I love it, man. I certainly feel it too. I'm in love with you, you know that. And the Earth, the regeneration is, again, that was initiated because we felt the call to come and be with you and in Vanuatu, and that just opened up this whole new doorway of possibilities. It was like we were doing it unconsciously, opening up um, our minds and our hearts to anticipate these miracles coming in. And little do we know, here we are 2 years later nearly, and we've got this documentary piece from Vanuatu and from different experiences in Far North Queensland, and we're currently right now have a whole documentary um, completed, and we've got a screening on Friday, which is a localized kind of exclusive screening just to explore and gain feedback on the refinement and the last touches before it goes into full release, so that the story and the narrative is cohesive, and all the little parts of the engine like come together to make this whole documentary, which speaks to Syntropy, it speaks to regenerating, it speaks to solutions based, and really our hope and our intention with it is to really activate people to feel a real sense of hope and optimism that we have the ability to contribute and be part of the regeneration that is occurring, and be part of the solution, and play an active role in supporting each other and our communities as we move through these times. And so they're really simple, practical solutions that, you know, we spoke about in this conversation about growing your own food. Um, but just a gentle reminder to those who watch it, how simple we can really, and how powerful we can really make this life if we choose to do so. And so we've got a beautiful selection of humans that share, such as yourself throughout the film, and the people like Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is part of the film, and Dr. Zach Bush, who features in it just a little bit. But then we've also got some beautiful, extraordinary humans doing amazing things in the local community here in Far North Queensland, like Leslie Van Strathen, Jay Jackson, and a whole range of wonderful people that are just playing a role in this shift that we're moving through. And that was another big inspiration for us in creating this, was that we really want to celebrate amazing people. Like, this is not about Tom or I. It's not really our story. This is about our friends and our family and our community who are doing these awesome things, and just really elevating that story and celebrating it, and yeah, just having fun with it more than anything. You know, what a journey it's been for it. And I'd just like to say a big thanks to Tom, who's been moving through a lot in the last 12 months of his life, and just to see him really just step up and, you know, really take ownership of being a father now, which is his main priority, and just see him wholeheartedly commit to bringing up this beautiful young child. And then in his spare time, you know, really commit to the documentary as well, and finishing it, and getting it out there. So I really got a lot of time and respect for him, and also for you. You know, like, we wouldn't be here without you, basically. So huge love to you, man. What a
yeah,
journey it's
wow.
been, and reflecting on that time in Vanuatu is just a magical experience that opened up so much possibility.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I definitely have a fantasy of you, me, and Thomas going back there at some point,
Yeah.
to reconnect with Papa Bear, I feel really nice about that.
Yeah, it'd be epic. I would love
that,
that.
that yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I just have all those memories come back up from our time there together, and being where I'm now, and how much has changed, and how it is all perfect, because being here with the New Earth project and being involved on so many stratas of the multitude of ecosystems that I'm navigating. It's just so good to have all these set kind of like digital warrior skills being deployed from, web design, web hosting, email content, curation and writing, and social media distribution, to, kind of producing, in the back end, producing the events together with money. And yeah, it's so enlivening. And what I see and what we have as a feedback to what it is that we're doing is that we're the nutrition to people. We're the sanity in amongst all of the mayhem and chaos. And for people that are very comfortable because they are still in a bubble, as the second or the third lockdown hasn't really happened for them, yeah, it may not feel so relevant to explore what's going on elsewhere in the world, because, what can you really do about it? And I see that for the people that are actually in those ecosystems where the repression and the suppression and the man, the and the ludicrousity of, for them to be met with reason that is sound, and that is actively speaking to the distortions that are being perpetrated really on the people by a bureaucracy, a matrix of, it's a system that only gets more complex. It only develops more bylaws and more bylaws and more bylaws. It never really orientates itself to stripping down everything back to the Constitution. And because this societal framework requires more and more restrictive management, because it's not a syntropic system. It's an entropic, fear-based, lack-based, scarcity-based, and control-based operated matrix. And when you try to control life, well, you'll just have to control life more and more and more and more and more. And yeah, for the people that are in the intensity, like they're in Denmark, or they are in where it's really all totally crazy, or they live in Japan where everybody just does it out of respect, wearing a mask, no questions answered, or whether it's in New Zealand or Melbourne in Australia, or the UK in London or California. Like, the feedback that we're getting is just like, wow, what a time to be alive, because this is the great reckoning. And that's where I feel it's just so beautiful to have come to Bali on just a fantasy, like, oh, I would really like to see a friend. And then I got here and I kind of got stuck, and but stuck with purpose, like really not stuck at all, just purposely deployed, because, we're reaching, what is it, maybe 200,000-300,000 people a week with what we're doing through the New Earth project and all the outreach that we have. And then everybody sharing it to places and spaces that I see our videos being uploaded in places that, it's just like awesome. People taking the liberty to rip it off the net and stick it on there and stick it on there and upload it in their own channels. It's awesome. I encourage that, because we're an open source ecology. And so yeah, it's great. It's really beautiful to be alive and to be of a contributive function in this world. And I see that these conversations are the conversations that are contributing to the sanity and the return to a sense of, okay, I'm not alone. Like, how many humans do still not feel isolated from authentic connection? And so I through all the biofeedback that we get through emails, I know that these conversations are often referred to as the lifeblood for people. They're like the oxygen. And because they see two humans communicating about everything that is actually happening for them. And that's something that I see, that us furthering this is just beautiful for our, I do it for me, but I also know from experience that this is of value to the world. And what a beautiful, beautiful way of us to just authentically share what is real for us and what we're feeling and how we're relating to life. And of course, bringing Syntropy into this is key, because we have this entropic matrix system, but we've never been taught how to operate syntropically. And that is just a process of remembering, because syntropy is our nature. And that coincides really nice with this little quote that I sounded out this morning. And I'm quoting myself here, of course. You know. Renew your mind, give thanks to unknown blessings, anticipate miracles. Hashtag we are Syntropy. And that's our nature. We're not wired for this entropic, fear-based culture. And yet it's all we've really known, because we're born into it. That doesn't mean that's just what we're going to continuously be doing. And this crazy time that we're in is pushing people to remember their sovereignty, their freedom. How many humans in Australia have not all of a sudden learned about their own rights and felt, okay, well, the only way that I'm going to navigate this is to educate myself. And we have, through Reclaim Your Lives, have shared actively on all the learning platforms and basically remembering platforms that are active in Australia and in other Commonwealth countries to not consent, to put these prime ministers and these ministers of whatever vaccination fantasies, to put them on notice, to contract them. And there is a tremendous learning curve happening in the first wave of people that are waking up to, like, I don't want this. What do I do? Because at some point we have to stop, just being upset and being a victim by the oppression of a system, because that doesn't really change anything. It's about reclaiming our own ability to navigate that. And for a lot, there's a lot of resistance around that, because it never should have been this way, but it is this way. And so being in acceptance that it is what it is allows us then to question, what can I do? How can I step into something that will allow me to stay grounded, and not in a form of coping, but really re-enable my inborn ability to navigate these turbulent times. And there's a beautiful quote that I love quotes these days, because there's so many good memes, but there's a Project Veritas that is very active in the United States that is exposing a lot of the fraud over many years already on so many levels. And its tagline is, be brave, do something. And it's like, that's 4 words. So be brave, do something. If anybody hears this and they're still in this kind of self-recognizable victim mentality, like, wow, this is, be brave, do something, because that's really the function. It's pushing us further and further to an edge within ourselves. Because what we have forgotten, because we weren't raised with that, is our own sovereignty, is the resiliency of our freedom and what we actually want for our communities and our families. So it's nice to tie this all into our New Earth ecosystem and the Reclaim Your Lives and the Earth Heroes. It's like so much cross-pollination, and it's all just so in tune and in harmony with each other. I really, really love this little space that we're creating together, Shay. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Thank you so much. Could you just repeat your little quote again for me one more time? Renew your mind. I loved it so much. I just want to write it down as well. It was just so on point.
Renew your mind. Well, you can do that daily, but every time you read it, and it's inculcating that. It's like saying, I want to renew my mind. I want to be able to see with eyes unclouded. I don't want to be basing my navigation based on everything that has been part of my past lived experience. I want to have a new ability to engage with the world. So renew your mind. Give thanks to unknown blessings. Anticipate miracles. Hashtag we are Syntropy. I want to hear the one that you shared, this beautiful brother of yours again, because they're just so beautiful words.
Yeah, he shared, when you open your heart to love, only love sees it.
Wow, what a potent reminder to soothe all those fears, you know, opening up to love. Um, that that can bring up so much for people because there's vulnerability in there, as I comprehend it. Only love sees in. Gosh, I
So
love
good,
it. I'm
man.
gonna tag you.
Love you so much,
Here we
Naveen.
are navigating the digital ecosystem of our social fabric. It's such an amazing time to be alive. Shay, I want to thank you
It is.
for coming on with me and being here to relate. It's just so awesome.